actually move it so that you can see the things about the Air Force
I
rather
like
than
the. I was gonna say I like the samurai sword back there.
Actually, I have three. On the other wall, I have the other two.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
glad everybody's here. No technical difficulties.
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised by that, honestly.
Who are you surprised for?
The old man, but he has been using Zoom a little bit more often now.
Oh, really, Dr. Delgado?
Yeah, we got him set up with Zoom. He did a Zoom meeting. What was it? 2 weekends ago now?
Maybe I don't even remember.
I think it was 2 weekends ago now, and
I
I was
used
kind of surprised. Huh?
I used to do it with Ring Central before.
Great Central.
Hey,
It's not that much of a difference, I don't think. I
No,
don't know.
they're all pretty much the same.
Yeah.
One video conferencing tool is, they all do the same shit.
Right.
yeah, yeah. Although Emmanuel loves Microsoft Teams.
Yes, that he
Teams is
does.
annoying because of the way that you have to set it up for it to work effectively.
Yeah.
But that's a whole nother
It's-
bag of tricks that unless you're a large organization, it doesn't make any sense to even have that conversation.
It's taken some time to get used to for me, but I do like the Teams. It's not a bad app.
Well, the way I look at it, the future is for you guys. I'm supposed to be slowing down. Just whenever you need me, I may be there. But all of this new tech, all this new software, nah. No,
If it
I
makes you
gotta
feel any better,
concentrate.
I'm a lot of the same way on that.
Yeah,
I
it
don't
just
like playing with a lot of the new tech.
I need to concentrate on what I can do best that you guys cannot do. So
Mhm.
all of these things are things that you're gonna have to live with it. So good luck.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ah,
I always say that when I get a new cell phone too. It's like
oh,
I don't need one. It's this thing does everything it needs to do. Why do I need a next best iPhone? And then
and the
you
Other
end up,
than the cost that it increases,
and then
right?
you end up getting one anyways. It's just yeah.
yeah. For me, it's a matter of even the computers. I hate to change computers. You know how long it takes,
Yeah.
even if I use a backup to just put all the files, it takes too long to set it up.
Yeah. You got to get to where everything's on the cloud, though. That way, everything you don't have to worry about it. It's a
I
lot faster.
I don't understand. I don't trust it. Don't trust the
I
cloud.
don't disagree with you, but it goes back to, well, we'll probably be talking a little bit about this during this conversation. So I don't know if Ray wants to get started before we start getting into
Yeah, we
some
can
of
go
this
ahead and get
stuff.
into it. I told you guys before we jumped into this, we usually do a trivia question, but I know Dr. Delgado, and we're on a limited bandwidth, and Dr. Delgado, I know, has a lot to say, so I just wanted to dive right into it. So,
Yep.
I know Dr.
So I
Delgado
mean,
doesn't
The
I
mind.
would say,
winded man.
Ray, I would say honestly, let's just do the intro for Epi Compliance and go right into Dr. Delgado's intro, and then we can go from there.
Sweet, works for me. Let me
'Cause-
share screen,
yeah.
and we'll go ahead and we'll go ahead and dive into it. Let me know if you guys got picture.
Yep.
Yep.
Sweet. Well, let's get rocking and rolling. So, welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us for today's webinar and a new series. We're calling this EPICompliance Leadership Insights. Today's topic is going to be a conversation with our CEO, Dr. Jose Delgado. I'm Ray Walters. I will be your host. Also joined by co-host, and for those of you that have tuned in before, Mr. Jose Delgado Jr. Will be joining us today. Again, for those that have seen, he's got extensive background in healthcare consulting. Currently owns a mental telehealth clinic, and glad to have him on this one as well. And again, joined today by our guest expert and CEO of EPICompliance, Dr. Jose Delgado. Dr. Delgado, listen, I'm going to keep it short and sweet with you, but I do want you to sort of fill in our guests today and those that may be tuning in, your experience in the industry. But Dr. Delgado has over 25 years of experience in healthcare consulting and is a renowned healthcare executive. He's worked with many hospitals, healthcare practices, and various healthcare businesses. He's here to provide valuable insights into HIPAA compliance today and cybersecurity in the healthcare industry. Dr. Delgado, thanks for joining us again. I wanted to keep it short and sweet, but please feel free to add on.
Well, hold on. Let's do it like this though. So, Dr. Delgado, why don't we'll get more of your insight from answering this real easy question. Entrepreneurs start businesses because they see a hole in the industry that they feel they can solve. What was the purpose behind setting up EPICompliance? And that can kind of give our viewers more information on your background and the why behind everything.
Okay, well, I have to start with the predecessor of EPICompliance being Taino Consultants. And the idea was that, and also one of the things Ray didn't mention, and my company is also a contractor, subcontractor for Medicare audits. So as Taino Consultants, we did everything, cradle to grave, from somebody coming up with the idea to execute to the point of somebody died, we need to help the widow to take care of the practice, or people want to divorce the practice, or people just want to close and move on. So at that point in time, every time that I went through it, and this is something I tell people, if you cannot afford compliance, don't get into the business, because everything else is a flavor of what you are adding to it. So what I found out, it didn't matter whether it was a one doctor office or a hospital, the basic requirements were the same. So for me to write on the policies, to look into the forms, to look at implementation, it was the same thing I was doing. So why, instead of having everybody paying high prices based on how the size it is why don't we put everything online so that it makes our life easier? The other point was that every time that Jose has been with me in multiple audits, we went to audit an office and all we saw was a binder that sometimes had never been opened. So those were the policies, or it has the name of the other offices. And I said, this is an immediate fine from the government. I could actually go to just about any practice and within the first 10, 15 minutes, fine hundreds of thousands of dollars on fines. So what can we do to be different? Especially when you look at it, I do research on a daily basis. So everything changes too frequently. And then it's the flavors. Well, it depends. My favorite answers. You ask me any question, the answer is it depends. You need to understand. So the one thing that I could do to help everybody in the healthcare field was to create the compliance program. Now, there are competitors that only have HIPAA security or OSHA or HIPAA privacy, and very few have the Medicare compliance or OIG. Well, it doesn't matter who you are, you still needed all four of them. So rather than penny pinch our clients, is no, let's provide them this. This is a tool, this is the cost of doing business. This is as important as having a malpractice insurance. So we do this, and then anything else that they need, we can concentrate on that. So let the operators be operators, but let us help you in the most efficient, both from the standpoint of implementation and cost, the way we can help you with, give you the tools. And that's EPICompliance. Okay?
All right. So most of the people that are going to be coming on to our videos or even on with us right now understand the importance of compliance, at least on a tangential viewpoint. But as things get passed through Congress every couple of years, they add something that all of a sudden it's not just the owners that are on the hook, but also the compliance officers are on the hook and management is on the hook. Can you go into that a little bit more, because I don't think everybody really understands all of the people that are now liable for when there is an issue. Looking at you, Ascension Health, looking at you, Change Healthcare, because they're the big ones on the news right now, So can we get into that one a little bit?
Yeah. Well, and that and a little more, of course, is there were, and actually this came from a lot of the operations taking place in Miami, Florida. People with no background on health were owning practices and having healthcare providers doing the services, but they were committing all kind of fraud at that point in time. So the federal government looked into it and say, okay, so who is really involved? So because the default is we'll go after the provider. He's the one that had the professional license. We're gonna go after him. Well, they realize that there's more people behind. So they look into anybody that touches the money or have power to make decisions on the money. We want a background check. And if anything happens, you will be liable. So whether if the office manager is doing deposits and dealing with checks and bookkeeping and all that, guess what? Anything happens, you're responsible because you were in a position of seeing the money and spending. And I can tell you multiple tales of people that are in the front office or office managers that were stealing hundreds of thousands of dollars. Then the next one is billing. Billing should know what's happening. So anything happens with the practice, you're dealing with billing, guess what? Orange will be your next favorite color because it's the only one you're going to wear. Anybody that have ownership above 5% is also going in. So even if you don't work on the practice, you have 10, 15% for whatever reason, ownership, you have to go through everything. And that means background checks every 2 years. That means anything that happens, you will be fine. That means that if anything, any investigation, because remember, there are different types of investigations. But the Department of Justice reserves the right to do an investigation at any time. So you could be taken through the calls with the Department of Health and Human Services. Has nothing to do with the Department of Justice. So anybody that touches money, that make any financial decisions, or that has more than 15% ownership, you will be liable. Okay. Now, what I was going to say before you go to the next questions, and I promise this is going to be short. The irony of it all, and this is something that I tell my friends that are physicians, say you are becoming a plumber. And sometimes the plumber is going to make more money than you with less risk. So where is the money in healthcare? Administration and compliance. When you look into it, there's one thing, and I saw this thing just last week in one of the articles I was reading, was that no one can be 100% compliance. Yeah. There's no way to keep up with technology the way it is going. So the government understands that at some point in time, you're going to get hit. The key here is how bad. If you don't have policies, you don't have a current security risk analysis, you don't have a compliance program, you're screwed. There's no excuses. But I have one particular client that was going to be nailed to the wall. Hundreds of thousands of individuals were affected, and we were able to get scot-free. I mean, just a slap in the hand, but nothing else because we had the support for everything. So with that also goes the part of now it is, and it actually has been for the last 5-10 years, there's not enough people that understand compliance and cybersecurity. So anybody that is in a practice that wants to climb, that wants to make good money, I tell them, get into cybersecurity, get into compliance, get all the certifications, and that's the way you're actually going to be, ideally, to a point that you're going to be making more money than a physician with a lot less liability. Okay?
So, well, you bring that up. My big problem is that as we get more complex, there's always that seesaw that we have to manage when it comes to cybersecurity. How hard is it to access the data, and how much does this screw with my workflow, right? And what we're finding is that in both the Ascension case and in the Change Healthcare case, these were not high-tech manners by which they breached and then took control of the systems. In the Change Healthcare case, it was lack of multi-factor authentication on a vendor of Change Healthcare. Ascension still hasn't been honest about how they got ransomed, but conversations are that they used somebody's old logins to get into one thing, and then they just jumped into every other system until they had one that fit their programming methodology, and then they just shut everything down. To which Right now, as of yesterday, Ascension is still down in multiple states.
Right.
So, where, I mean, in mine and Ray's viewpoints, what we've told told everybody that watching here, the best thing we can do is have the policies and procedures and say, hey, this is where we're at, this is what we're trying to do to show intent to follow the law. But this stuff, I mean, how do you prevent this? Like, I haven't found a way to prevent these simpler human error type situations.
Okay. The problem that we have is technology, period. We have moved to a point that we depend on technology for everything. Once you do that, you're in trouble. I mean, for me, I have my own network in my home, and I'll give you this simple example. My pool, my solar system, both run through the internet. It's so easy to hack either one of them and get into my system. So the problem is, okay, I hate multi-factor authentication, hate it with a passion. But what happens? Right now, just having the simple login and password, realistically speaking, is not going to protect you. Having every computer that I have has a hard drive that backs up the computer. So anybody comes in and ransomware my system, I'll laugh and I say, I can throw all my computers away and buy new ones because everything is in a separate device that is encrypted that they won't be able to hack. So it's by having multiple layers that makes me work. My problem is that there are other places where I work that the return on investment is not there. They're looking at so much about security that the workflow cannot move. How can I work with this person or that person? So it's almost to the point of keep it simple. Right now, encryption, multi-factor authentications are basic. Backups, yes, and backups that if somebody gets into the network cannot corrupt your backups. Your backups have to have a different shield, but you can actually create a backup that does it automatically. That if somebody tries the ransomware, which is the new thing, I mean, there's what has happened with a lot of the healthcare organizations is that they already know, and I mean the government, that there's this one organization that's their expertise. It's like saying IBM computer. Well, that place, that group is ransomware. So you gotta keep it simple. Encryption, multiple factor authentications, backups, and then make sure that at any point in time, because this is also part of the disaster preparedness, your system has to be able to function even if everything is shut down. So like the conversation we had before about the cloud. Well, remember, I am a predecessor of the cloud. I learned to program using machine language. I work on Star Wars. We can talk about everything that happened with technology, and that has been my career. So I know where we are, I know where we're going, but there's two things that we can do. So with EPI, what I try to do is right now, even with the security reminders, it gives people hints of this is the problem, these are solutions that can apply to you. But I have to be general. I cannot go into, like, for example, I'm now working on a specific for imaging centers, urgent care, dentists, because I would say each specialty has its own leader scene, but overall, it goes back to the basics.
Of course. So every industry has its own risk factor as well, due to the amount of vendors that they may have, the amount of contractors that they may have, kind of systems that they may have. And that's something that needs to be assessed in an individual, unique manner. That's not something that EPICompliance is really designed to cater towards. EPICompliance is designed for the larger mass population, smaller practices, smaller to medium-sized practices that have limited resources and are looking for a way to do this properly, to have a compliance program that works for their business. Where would you say that if someone's starting a compliance program or overhauling their compliance program, where would you recommend that they even start looking at this?
Okay, so let me first modify something that you say. The changes that we have been doing on EPICompliance are actually designed to go into the bigger organizations. So we'll be able to handle from the one person to a hospital organization. Now, hospital organizations already have their own compliance department. However, the idea of EPI is the resources and the tools. No one that I know of in the healthcare system have the monthly task telling you, okay, make sure that you look at this and make sure that you look at that. So we have, and we continue to grow into a wider audience. The other thing that you very well know is that anytime a client has a problem, they contact most of the time Ray, and Ray will come to us and say, you know what? That's a good question. That's something that will be worthwhile. So what we do is we add it to the EPICompliance. So the system have been growing based on my own research and our clients' needs. So with that, what was the question again?
You're a client, you're someone that's looking to overhaul a compliance system or start a compliance system from scratch in a practice. You can't shoot at everything.
Maybe you're doing things in-house currently, but you don't
Where
have
would
all
you,
your-
I mean,
it doesn't matter.
overhauling or starting from scratch, where would you even start?
HIPAA security. And the reason why is that every compliance program, every law is pretty much loose. When you really look at the regulation, and I have done it multiple times, and again, when I find a new law, I go back to the regulation to see how it's affected. And most of the time, even the laws that are online may be obsolete, even if those are posted by the Department of Health or the Department of Human Services, Department of Justice. So HIPAA security is very specific about what they require you to do to make you in compliance. But me working many years ago as a contracting officer for the government, doing all the things that I have done, HIPAA security was one of the best programs that they came up with because it actually addresses the things that you can do that will help you. So I will start there to see, okay,
Where? Because HIPAA security is massive.
yes.
You know,
Okay.
when you split it up between the technical, the physical, the administrative section that covers the other two, plus HR in there as well, you know, like I mean, you and I both know this, and anyone that's looked at a complete printed version of protocols and procedures that are acceptable for an audit, you're looking at something bigger than the King James Bible.
Yes. Well, this is, well, again, so
So
everything
where would you
I don't-
start with this elephant?
Okay, the first thing I will do is get a security risk analysis. Give me a baseline to see what I need to do. Then after that, I will start with training my employees so that they know the basics, because most of the things, most of the problems will come from employees. Then after that, my business associates. You'll be surprised. No, you won't be, but
I will.
I'm not.
yeah. A small office may have up to 5 to 20 business associates. Now, they don't recognize them, but when somebody comes in, and I tell you, me as an auditor, I come in, I would say, no, this person, these persons are business associates. You started a contract with them, let's see, we're on 2024, you started a contract with them in 2018. So I'm gonna find you with a breach on HIPAA security from 2018 for every business associate that you did not recognize. So by the time I finish with that, I will be a couple $1 million in mandatory fines. And that's why with a smaller business, that will end up into a settlement of a couple $100,000. So business associates. So security risk assessment, training, business associates, basic policies and procedures.
You wouldn't cater that to specific sections, the admin versus the physical versus the technical. You would just kind of like try to whole hog it, even though you and I both know this better than most. When we're looking at one specific item, just the business associates, there's pieces of that in the administrative section, there's pieces of that in the HR section, in the administrative section, there's pieces of that in the technical section because of the IT and the networks and all that fun stuff, so you would just kind of whole hog it by subject and not by section of the legislation.
Yeah, because I look at it from two standpoints, strategy and liability. If I do those four, I can show the government immediately that I am actually working towards protecting the business. So that protects me from the liability of an audit or somebody coming in, or even a breach. I can say, no, I started working on this. From the standpoint of I would say, the actual risk, by me starting with those things, again, I'm addressing the risk of my operations from where I see is the biggest risk factors. I don't have the time, like you say, I don't have the knowledge, the time, or the resources to break it down in pieces right now. I have to put something in quickly. So those will be the things that I do, and then I continue to build from that. But that would be my baseline that will protect me from, like I say, from anybody trying to do harm, from liability, from the government.
Okay.
For those that might not
So
be
another
so familiar with security risk assessments, Dr. Delgado, do you mind explaining sort of the crucial role that plays
Okay.
with owning a healthcare practice?
Yeah, well, the way I can explain it is very simple. You have a patient, a new patient comes in. What are you going to do? The patient may have the chief complaint, oh, I have a headache. But before you can even start working on that, especially if you look at primary care, I want to look at your systems. I want to see everything that is happening with you so I can come up with the treatment and a plan of action. So the security risk assessment is actually something that is mandated by HIPAA, but it's also the one tool that multiple programs and multiple laws pick on, because they know that most people won't have it. I mean, even the training for the district attorneys talk about the HIPAA security risk assessment. Now, the law basically says that you could do it by yourself. But the problem is, yeah, you can do it by yourself, but
Which we
you're
see a
doing it by
lot of.
yourself. You are now increasing all the liability because you don't know how to do it. And like what happened with organizations at work, they have their own risk manager doing it. Well, he was covering his tail. So he didn't actually put a true risk analysis there. So the federal government, the Department of Justice, doesn't like to see risk analysis done in-house. And let's not even talk about IT. IT say, well, we'll do the security risk analysis for you. No, you can't, because you don't know about, like Jose was talking about, the physical part, the administration part. The security risk analysis, 2/3 of that is administrative, not technical. So I think it seems that, oh, we can do this. And there are many times that I have talked with them and say, you are actually lying to your customers because they think that you did a security risk analysis based on IT, and that does not cover all the risk factors that are mandated by the government. So it is the one document that think about it as, I will not practice without, I would say, malpractice insurance. Well, guess what? The security risk analysis is your malpractice insurance. Make sure that that's the first thing you do before you do anything else. Make sure that you find somebody competent to do it. In 25 years that I have been doing, or maybe more now, that I've been doing the security risk analysis and looking at other companies, I have only found one that I say, okay, this company knows what they're doing. This one meets the requirements of the law. One, and I'm talking about thousands, tens of thousands of risk analysis have been looking at. And then what happened is that when the government comes in, and this is funny because we got clients now coming to us and say, do you have a copy of my last 3 years? You're supposed to have it for 6 years. Every year you do it because either they're being investigated by the government, or they actually are selling, and a venture capitalist, they won't touch you if you don't have a valid security risk analysis. Or it could be just an inspection from the hospital, insurance company. I'm dealing now with a couple of insurance companies that are starting to ask for that. So that is the one document that you must have, period. But that's the one document that, while Dr. Headley, my partner at EPICompliance, wants to include it as part of EPI, I have always said no, because I will not do something that will harm my customers. So that have to be customized. That have to be something that is for your practice by somebody that knows what they're doing. So that's why we do it under Taino Consultants, but we use the EPICompliance platform to support that they're doing what they need to do. Okay.
You answered my
Good.
follow-up
Ray, you have
questions. I was going to ask what does EPI do in conjunction to the SRA, but that's it. Everything.
So then let's have a little bit of fun with this, right? Because these audits, Ray and I have been using Change Healthcare as a well for topics, and every time I'm doing a little bit of research, some cybersecurity expert gets involved and asks the question of, what can the federal government do? And I would be curious to see what a consultant has to say, because on the cybersecurity side, they're saying, hey, we need help with cybersecurity. And I don't think that that's an appropriate response for how they're getting in. Because again, they're getting in through very simple means. They're not brute forcing this.
There's no need. So, but explain a little more, because
So, for example, there was
wide,
an
so I can
article
go into.
yesterday that I read where a cybersecurity expert said that he would recommend, in order to prevent, and I don't think this would prevent anything, but to prevent more of these events from occurring, the federal government should come in and step in and assist practices more than what they're already doing. And in my mind, they can't, because they can't get a hold of any of these guys. They can't put anybody's head on a pike because they're in non-extradition countries. The fact that IT is the technology is allowing them to do it anywhere in the world, or even space for that matter, there's no jurisdiction for any DOJ, any federal government aspect. To every individual practice, because of the way that these compliance legislations and regulations are set up, it's all individualized.
Okay.
And 3, because meaningful use stage 3 never occurred, there's no input from the federal government on that database level that they had envisioned back during the Obamacare writing stages.
Well, like I say, forget about meaningful use. We're already on MACRA. And
Well, I
MACRA
know,
is
but I mean,
already
I'm just
getting.
giving that as an example because of where stage 3 was supposed to go.
I know, but we already on MACRA, and even MACRA is getting to the point that within the next couple of years, they're already planning on rolling out a new system. So let's not even get there, because that will be a week of us talking about MACRA, MIPS, and what's coming down the pipe, and even how they're going to be paying. Start with cybersecurity. I don't want the federal government to get involved, because all they're going to do is drop the responsibilities on me. So I had to spend more money to meet the requirements that they are asking for, that by the time they tell me what is it that they want to put on a law for me to interpret, for me to put it in place, I'm spending 100 times more than what I will do on my own. Now, what the federal government has done, and you can actually look into the FBI, the Department of Justice, the Department of Health and Human Services, all of them have plenty of resources that are actually very good regarding cybersecurity and what you can do. But the issue goes back to cybersecurity, is that it's so wide and it changes so much that you have to do it yourself. That's why at the beginning I was talking about cybersecurity professionals. I'm going to make a killing in the future, because it's changing all the time. There are very few people that know what's going on, and there's going to be a need on everything. Look at it even now, people opening their cars with the cell phones and the houses, looking at cameras we've seen. Guess what? all of that is being hacked. I can tell you that pretty much just about any organization, give me a domain name, and I bet you that I can get into the black web and find how many times had that domain name have been compromised. So it's something that you have to invest money. I mean, now, and let's put it from the standpoint of business. Okay. In the past, it used to be doctor, finish school, get the diploma, put it on the wall, starts making money. It was that simple. Now, same scenario. Doctor finishes school, gets the diploma. Guess what? Now, have somebody help you with the documents to create the LLC and the PA so you don't get sued and you don't lose your pets. That's what Legally Mind, one of our partners, does a great job. Then after that, you need to look into cybersecurity. So what technology you are going to use that adopts or applies to you and how you're going to use it to protect yourself. Then you got to look at the compliance. If you don't know the rules, don't play the game. So, and the funny part is that it depends on what kind of money you accept, what rules affect you. So people don't know. So there are multiple things, and now you have to look at it. But it goes back to the same thing. Cybersecurity should be on you. You need to have somebody that understands the basics. And again, you don't need to have an expert in every business. Depends on the size. But you need to know where to go to get advice. Where to go to, okay, because you go with an IT company and they say, oh, we're going to be monitoring every computer, everything that you have. Well, that is great. But how many of you remember IoT, the Internet of Things? So monitoring computers right now is not enough. An EKG machine will have all the information from the patient is connected to the internet. The same thing could be with some labs of the machines. So now it goes beyond what the normal IT look into it. So that's why I say, but at the same time, okay, so I have a small office. I'm gonna be spending a couple $100 on the chip side on the internet. Then I had to spend a couple $1,000 on IT to provide security and support. Well, by the time that you finish, you are just an employee of your practice that you have to put money in. So you have to be smart in terms of what you do. Okay. So bottom line.
So I would actually take it in a different direction, as most of our conversations go. Because of the manner in which a lot of these larger breaches are occurring, they're not occurring because someone is brute force hacking into your individual systems. A lot of times they're taking advantage of the human component. For the Change Healthcare was they used old credentials that were still active,
right,
to jump into one system in Citrix and then jump into all of the other ones.
Right.
Ascension would probably be the same thing because they haven't released it yet, but they're still paying for their ransom, I think. So as of yesterday, anyways, they're still down. So I would say that wouldn't it be more valuable to just address the basics and have strong HR protocol. So if someone leaves the practice, you're out. I got to get it done today and off of everything. You're walking out the door and you're getting out of every single system that you used to have access to. Because I think that's where a big breach and fault is in the healthcare industry as a whole.
Well, actually, under HIPAA security, one of the requirements is that how do you give access to a new employee, not only to the system, to the applications, and then when they are even promoted, how do you remove and give access? And then there is when they leave, how do you remove access? So by all means, you are completely right. I mean, right now, cyber criminals know that it's so easy because of lack of knowledge to basically get into any system. I can actually see, and today I was actually running a couple checks on my computer. I'm being attacked thousands of times an hour. It's just how you fed off. And a lot of them I look at it and say, wow, that was clever. That was a smart move. So yeah, it goes back to go to the basic. how many times have we gone to an office that the password is just attached to a sticky by the
Sticky
computer?
note.
I mean, it happens all the time. Or you go in and say, okay, what is the password? How many times have we found a password to be 1, 2, 3, 4?
Yeah.
It's
Quite often.
crazy. And
Yeah.
so it goes back to when people, and I'm one of those, we get mad because in all the website, government website I have access to, every 30, 45 days, I have to change the password. And it cannot be one that I have used in the past. It has to be a new one. And it cannot be a word that you can find on the dictionary because these systems can go through that in a matter of seconds. So you have to look at, like you said, what are the basics? What are the easy things to do? Yeah, by all means. When somebody comes in, get a checklist about what are you going to give them access so that when they leave, the day you terminate, you actually remove all that access. But what happens with the office manager that have her own computer that works from home and have access to all the information? Guess what? They say, well, I'm not accessing the information. I'm working from the cloud. Well, there's such a thing as a RAM, ready access memory, that even when you are working on the cloud, some information is downloaded into your system for you to be able to work. You
Where
don't
your
see,
passwords are saved because you didn't want to put them into the website every single time you logged in. Yeah,
yeah,
no, absolutely.
yeah. So there's more to it. So for purposes of our audience. That's why I created EPI, because there's more than just the required policies and procedures. There's actually modules that I had not released yet, and one of them is the human resources, where we talk about the when somebody starts and when somebody leaves, the job descriptions, all of that. But the problem is that it gets to a point that could be overwhelming. So compliance is not a one-person job, it's a team. It's like when I talk to a new client, I say, listen, OSHA should be your nursing department, somebody a nurse. Medicare compliance, that's your billing department, or your office manager. HIPAA security, yeah, you can have somebody that knows IT to be there. HIPAA privacy, medical records. And that way, and one person overlooking it because it's so heavy. But it's the easiest way to actually handle it. And that's the way we basically created EPI. There are 4 departments. Each department gets their monthly task so that it's not overwhelming. Otherwise, it's very difficult. You will spend anywhere between $80,000 a year to $400K to get a true HIPAA, I mean, to get a compliance officer, not a department, an officer. So I'm even looking at getting some people, training them to be virtual compliance officers. So that way they could do the job for 4 or 5 different businesses remote, but that alone would be cheaper than having somebody in a staff.
But who would want that kind of liability?
Well, it depends how you structure it. But for somebody that is smart, likes computers, they could do it. They could have a great time doing it. And then we can actually set it up that we create firewalls so that the liability doesn't hit them directly. Or and right now, guess what's going to happen with all of these organizations you're talking about, these breaches? Their HIPAA security officer is going to be fired
Yes, I was gonna say somebody's
at
getting
the
canned.
very least.
I'm
And
shocked that the one from Change hasn't been named yet, nor the one from United Health hasn't been named.
oh
The
yeah,
only person that has
Pretty
been
wild.
named has been the CEO of Change and the CEO of United.
yeah. But trust me, it
Saw
goes
that.
down.
Oh
So,
yeah,
but
absolutely.
what is going to happen with these people? They're going to get fired from these companies and they're going to go to another company because there's a need.
Yep.
So they're going to get another cushy job with a nice parachute to protect them because it will happen again. There's no way to prevent that from happening.
Yeah. So then, real quick before while everybody's typing any questions that they may have in the audience, where do you stand? Pay for the ransom or don't pay the ransoms?
I won't pay the ransom.
You won't?
I won't. And the problem is that a lot of the bigger companies right now, they
They're
see
doing it. They're all doing it.
They're paying it, and that's why it's become a business. So I will not pay. But again, I will prepare my system. I will work on the concept that at some point in time they're going to penetrate and they're going to try to ransomware. So I'm ex-military. So I plan for plan A, plan B, plan C, plan D. Okay, so that, okay, you penetrated, okay, you basically froze all my system, you have all my data that is encrypted, so it's worthless to you. So fine, throw away all the, and that's why I say I use a lot of laptops. Throw it away, burn it, destroy it. It's funny because I still have the hard drive of my computer for the last 10, 15 years.
I know.
I use magnets, I use a hammer, I break it down in pieces, throw them in different places because I work on that, on security, on classifying information. So I make it so that there is no way that with the current software, you will be able to capture that information or put it back together. So look at it that way. It's not really that hard to do it. And then work based on that.
It's kind of
Perfect.
wild that
So then,
these companies are paying those ransoms all while they're going to get, they're still going to have to pay fines on top of it. So it's like, what's the use?
Well, the thing is that they don't see any other way to continue operating. And when you are talking about a health system, I mean, all of the medications from the patients are there, all the procedures. So what is worse, to pay the ransom or to actually do harm to a patient that then is going to cause a lawsuit that could be a class lawsuit to get you? There's no win here.
No.
cool. So Ray, do we have any questions in the chat?
I was going to say, we'll go ahead and open up the chat room. If you guys have any questions, concerns, please feel free to throw it in chat, and Dr. Delgado, Jose, and myself will do our best to answer.
And while we're waiting for one more, where do you stand on the, I didn't even know this was an IT debate until about 6 months ago when Ray and I started this. Where do you stand on the password thing? One strong password that you never change. And by one strong password, I mean random numbers, letters, signs, or change it every 90 days and rotate them through.
I will say change it.
Even if it ends up being something simple that you just, I mean, for example, let's use an organization that we both know very well, the VA. They set up the password, they make you change it every 90 days, and you and I both know people that it's Acme 1, Acme 2, Acme 3, Acme 4, all the way up to Acme 8, and then they start back at Acme 1.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about passwords since you're there. Number one, one of the things that people do, and this is funny, the number that is used the most frequently on passwords is number 1. So using the number 1 and a word, you might as well use 1, 2, 3, 4. It'll be that easy to crack. Sometimes what I say is create a phrase that you like. I like to go on cruises. So ILGOC. So I will remember the phrase, but it's nothing that will happen anywhere in any dictionary. Then sometimes I say, okay, because it changes every 90 days, I may add to that set of characters, I will add the month. So I remember. So I add the month, capital, lowercase. I need to add a character. I put it before the month. Could be any character. And then a number. Well, that is up to you. But I come up with, I don't use 1 anymore. I used to use 1 all the time.
3,
so
2,
I don't
1.
use 1 anymore. But I will use a number that may have a meaning to me. Like, for example, may use the year I graduated from high school. Boom. When you put that set of characters or the words from my phrase, you put the special character, you put the month, you put the last two numbers or something that makes sense to you. That password is very hard to guess. And then I change it every 90 days with the month. But the basic password is different. Okay.
Yeah. We got one.
So Dr. Headley said there's a problem with Ascension and other hacked EMR systems going to paper charts and orders is confusing medications and procedure orders. For example, ultrasounds being done on the wrong person and even cardiac catheterizations on the wrong person.
Ooh.
Staff and providers cannot manage paper charting now. This is a big problem.
Well, so yeah, they can't manage it now. They didn't have a problem 15 years ago.
Well, I have a big organization that still uses paper charts. And if
I
you
mean-
want an office like pediatrics, there is an advantage of using some kind of paper chart. It all depends on how you do it. Okay.
So I think I would agree though with Dr. Headley on the Ascension piece. When you're a multi-specialty, multi-location, and you have patients jumping around from location to location. But if I'm an isolated office where my patients only come to my office, even if I'm part of a larger network, this is just a matter of people are lazy and don't remember how to do anything without the internet or without their computer. I mean, I know I'm of a certain age that I used to remember 50 phone numbers. Now I know 3.
Yeah. Well, I agree with you, especially from the standpoint of we have become so reliable on technology that we don't use our head anymore. It's like to this day, when I go with my wife shopping and there's any kind of sale, she said, "Well, what is the percentage of this?" And I calculate it there. But you look at people and say, "Percentage of what?" And they have to get their phone out and calculate. We used to for the medicines. I remember looking at this big soccer book to see if there were any interactions. And now they depend on a computer, on their phones. You talk to medical students and everything is on their phone. So
Yeah.
we have to get back to, yes, consider technology something to be of assistance, but don't rely on it that you become lazy in terms of checking the information. You gotta double check the information before you do anything to a patient. And then after that, also make sure that information is reliable. Because I tell you right now that the front office may be putting something on that paper that is not. I mean, I have issues with using electronic records with the difference between a cardiac clearance and a cardiac referral. It's not the same. So yeah, we do have that, but it's just that we depend too much on the electronics, on the systems. That's all there is. So pay attention. Know how to do
Dr.
your
Headley,
job.
we have a medium-sized client. I'm not going to mention their name for obvious reasons, but what the office manager will do is to prevent these kinds of scenarios, he will actually go to the breaker box and turn off the power, make everything go on emergency, and he'll make them do it for the whole day.
Wow.
No
That's
internet,
hardcore.
no EHR, no fax, no scans. And he says, and he just sits there and watches the chaos. And then they do an after action every month. He does it.
Oh
That's
no,
hardcore.
that's too much. That's hardcore. But the sad part is that that's one of the requirements.
No, in a hospital, absolutely, it's not tenable to just turn off the power, but it could be relatively easy to have internet issues at a hospital and practice in that regard. Because I mean, if you have hurricane issues in your area, you're going to have internet issues, you're going to have power issues, you're going to have different scenarios where they need to practice anyways. So I guess you just got to be practicing like you're in the panhandle of Florida or something.
Right. Just like the military.
Yeah.
They'll kill your sender, your messenger. Boom, it's dead. So now what do you do? So yeah, I've been in those scenarios.
Cool. Well, I think
gonna
we're reaching about that time. So
I got one last question for Dr. Delgado. And Dr. Delgado, Jose and I, we've been talking about the certified HIPAA security officer program that you built. I was wondering, or that you have sort of built from the ground up and came up with. Can you elaborate on that some more and the significance behind that certification?
Okay.
45 seconds though, because you could do a whole hour on this, and I know that.
Yeah, you already took
45-second pitch.
25. Okay.
Uh-huh.
Based on the law, every organization, including business associates, must have a HIPAA security officer. The problem is that they go in and they assign somebody like the IT, the office manager. They have no clue what to do. So the Certified HIPAA Security Officer program was designed to give all of these people a basic functionality of what is required under HIPAA security for them to do it, and to cover the business with having somebody that has some kind of clue about what HIPAA security is. So the HIPAA security officer is the entry level into cybersecurity and HIPAA. And there are two other levels that, depending on whether this person wants to continue with a cybersecurity track or administration, that they can complete, that are a little more complex. But this one, if you are in healthcare, you should do it, period. Short enough, guys?
Yeah.
Short
Yep,
enough,
yep,
and
yep.
that is going to be a certification that we'll be offering online here very soon. So stay tuned for that. We've talked about making a pre-registration lander, and I think we're going to start including it on our future webinars. So do stay tuned for that for those that are interested.
All right. So then, Ray, what are we talking about next week?
So next week, and Dr. Delgado, this is to your benefit. Obviously, we're going to be talking about the ransomware attack on Ascension Health. I have a friend that I went to UNF with. We both did health administration. He's a finance manager. For
Right. We got the inside
So-
track guy.
So
We got ground zero.
I haven't reeled him in yet, but I had a conversation with him, and I think he's going to hop on with us next week's webinar. So it'll be an inside source, and we'll sort of interview him on what's currently going on there in their situation. So
Nice.
should be pretty interesting.
Can't wait. Make sure you ask him before he comes on what he can and cannot say. I'm sure that
Of
legal
course.
has gotten to everyone
Of
and said,
course.
if we hear you say X, you're fired.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a little paranoid, but I think we'll be able to get him on. I told him we're not gonna sit there and poke and prod him, but just more so curious of what's going on in the infrastructure, because he told me, yeah, I mean they're
It's serious. It's serious.
systems down, all the stuff. I mean, it's brutal.
And they're in 19 states.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep. So
This
that's
is
almost half the US.
it's
Yep.
gonna be
Yeah.
interesting.
So
Well, I appreciate Dr. Delgado. I appreciate you sharing your expertise and insights with us today. And just for the audience, this information, we are going to start bringing Dr. Delgado onto these webinars. I think we plan at least once a month. So looking forward to that, and obviously covering some more topics in the healthcare industry. And for those of you, just so you're aware, we will be sending out the recording for today's webinar. If you have anybody you'd like to send it to, please feel free to share. Always, if you haven't subscribed to our social media channels yet, please do, especially our YouTube channel. Again, each and every one of these webinars that we've done, they go directly to YouTube. So as I mentioned, if you have somebody that you think will benefit from these, please like and subscribe, and feel free to share those videos with your colleagues.
Yeah, let me add something that, of course, if you have something that you would like for us to cover, let us know, whether it is with the guys or whether you want me to cover any information. Like I say, the answer is it depends, but I can tell you why and what are the variables. Okay.
sounds good.
Good point. Well, hey, thank you everyone again for your participation. Dr. Delgado, Jose, appreciate you guys as well. And look forward to seeing everybody on next week's topic.
Yep. Have a good one.
Take care, guys.
Bye.